Well, welcome back. Today, teens work to better their city, province, and country. They're called the Top 20 Under 20. Ivet Bell has achieved great success at school. At 17, she's already studying at Harvard. But it's her volunteering that's even more impressive. She works with dozens of community groups and social agencies. Here she is at the Top 20 Under 20 awards ceremony on the importance of volunteering.
Okay, Evette, so 17 and at Harvard.
That's true.
Is that a little tough being that young?
I think it has been tough in the sense that all throughout my projects, I've had to deal with a lot of adults to convince them that youth are powerful and they can do things. And sometimes we'll tune out in class, and it's true that we like to skateboard and use some slang. But overall, youth are very inspiring when they have a cause and they do the best they can. So I encourage everybody in this room to believe in students and in what they can do.
You're a very active community volunteer. Why do you think some young people choose to get involved in their communities and others don't manage to do that?
I think that was the issue that inspired me to really create projects that would involve the entire student body, every single student. The fact of the matter was that every volunteer initiative I was involved in attracted the same sort of people. And I think what needs to be done is voluntary service needs to be made relevant to people in their field. I always take the example of the athletes at my school who are very dedicated to basketball. How can you make an initiative relevant to them? And I think the key there is to find something that, for example, they can play at a game and support charity, or they could play with disabled students at a Paralympics. There's a lot of opportunity for involvement for different types of people.
Well, congratulations on getting so much participation in your school board. Tell me one thing that you've learned through your experiences this week with us.
I think what I've learned is that Canada already has so much talent and professionalism in a lot of our large companies. I know that visiting all of the sponsors and partners here, I noticed how much professionalism, how much dedication to Canada there is, and I'm very glad to see that. I don't think that all students know this, and I'd like to see this being shown to Canadians even more.
And Evette is Skyping us from Vancouver. Welcome to the show, Evette.
Hello.
I want to start with, I understand you started volunteering when you were around 11. What got you into the idea of volunteering at such a young age?
Well, really, I had already been doing quite well at school, and I had a lot of friends, and we just were wondering what to do. And around that time, we started hearing about issues such as global warming and the homelessness problem that we have in Vancouver, which is such a large issue. And we wanted to do something about it. Around that time also we had teachers telling us how to get involved in volunteerism, so we tried it out. The one thing I was always frustrated with, of course, though, was that often they'd bring together youth and they'd ask them, what do you want to do so that we have the world be a better place? And we'd come up with fabulous ideas, but often we'd lack a plan of what to do. So that really inspired me to motivate people to create plans in order to actually do things instead of just come up with ideas about better places.
And what are some of the first things that you got involved in at such a young age?
Just at the beginning of my high school years, so going into grade 8, I ran for student representative at student council, which really helped me out because I gained a lot of connections with other students. Around that time, we started helping children's hospices for children who were dealing with autism. The first project I did was a very large sleepover at the school where the whole school slept over for a night, giving donations and participating in a lot of fun activities in order to donate. Aside from that, we had canned food drives and all sorts of other charitable events where people could get involved.
Why did you get involved in the school board?
I thought that there was not enough students actually participating in the decision-making processes around the city. I found that often you find students in volunteer activities, but you don't find them in a political process, which seemed odd to me because if people are deciding about what schools should be like, then maybe students should have some input there. That's why I turned to the school board. That's why I asked them to include students on all of their committees and to have student voice on all of the planning processes that they were going through.
And how did that work out? When you became a member of the school board, you were a student representative. What did the other board members think about a student being part of this decision-making process?
I think they found it very odd at first. I'm sure that at first they withdrew and sort of thought about whether there should be a student participating in such serious discussions. I think a lot of them showed enthusiasm, but generally not the sort of enthusiasm we'd want. They thought it was just a child giving an opinion and not somebody very serious. Ultimately, I think they were very surprised, though. They were surprised that I had such opinionated arguments. They were surprised I had so much to bring to the table. And I think after about 3 years now that students have been participating in their committees, the general feedback is that they hear things they've never heard before about student life, and they've made huge improvements, such as, for example, a sustainability program, which entered all of the schools for recycling, which started from student input on these school board committees. So we're definitely seeing the results.
I also know that you were president of the Vancouver District Council. What is the Vancouver District Council, and what did you do as president?
So Vancouver District Student Council is basically a student body which is elected by all of the students in the Vancouver School Board, so students from all 18 Vancouver schools. It sort of works as an overseer of all the volunteer activities that happen in all the schools and student council activities. As president, I directed a body of 50 elected representatives, and I led them through initiating projects in their schools through all sorts of activities. One of the largest projects at a start was Beyond Borders, which was the first project in Vancouver to have all 18 schools participate.
Tell me about Beyond Borders. What is it, and what did you do?
So Beyond Borders was initially formed as an idea to have students volunteer in other countries, such as Vietnam and Peru, in the social areas for orphanages, where they would meet students their age. And we wanted to have them do that for free. So we created a series of fundraisers around the schools, and the whole idea was that the fundraisers would be a different sort. We wouldn't just ask for money, we'd ask for students to participate in activities they'd actually be interested in. So we had things like sports activities and games and walkathons and barbecues and concerts, sorts of things that would raise awareness while still involving that group of people which normally wouldn't be part of voluntary service.
And people may think that is just sort of a little thought that you had at the last minute, but I think that's key to the work that you do. Why is it so important for you to involve students who normally wouldn't be involved in this sort of work?
I think it's the primary thing that has motivated me for all this time. It's just seeing that I don't want it to be that there's only a certain type of person that volunteers. I want there to be opportunities for everyone. I find it fascinating when I see a school athlete, for example, find a way to connect with somebody else through a volunteer initiative. Such an initiative was thought of with Vancouver District Student Council with the Paralympics idea, where we had disabled students connect with athletes in our schools, and they both connected for a Paralympics game, of course connected to the 2010 Olympics that we had in Vancouver. Just seeing that is so remarkable, and it just shows how much each of us can contribute in our own different way through our passion.
Now, speaking of contributing, there's people who will hear about your Beyond Borders project and understand that students went to the developing world for a week or two to work at an orphanage and to help out, and they'll say, well, what kind of a difference can you make in such a short period of time? How would you respond?
I would respond that I completely understand what they're talking about, because it's something I ask myself every day. I think the importance is the raising of awareness, having that human connection, the fact that these people have experienced being in that different type of reality, and hopefully that inspires them to become part of political processes, of larger movements, of taking a voice in their communities. So no, I don't believe that they've changed the world in their 2 weeks, but I do believe that the fact that 18 Vancouver schools got together for one cause is something remarkable and something that is praiseworthy in the very least.
I feel like I'm going through your resume here. Your involvement in the High School Reconstruction Committee, what was your involvement and what was that?
That came as sort of an odd involvement because it wasn't connected to any student council activities or volunteerism. What ended up happening is my school, called Kitsilano Secondary, is in a very old neighborhood, and it was due for seismic upgrade. They said, we have to tear the school down. The whole community uprose and said, we'll form a committee in order to find out whether there's any other solution to this. And the student body elected one student representative, and this was me, to go and speak for this. And the options were whether we tear the school down and build a new one, keep the historical site, or maybe somehow update the interior and keep the facade. And as simple as those choices may seem over a Skype interview, it turns out that a community is really passionate about this. And the biggest issue for me was I had my own opinion, but I wasn't there to voice my own opinion. I was there to stand for a whole community. And balancing those interests was a very difficult thing to do at age 15.
I was going to ask you, you were 15 at the time.
That's right.
I'm curious, I mean, having gone through this long, elaborate list with you, do you ever hear of a problem and think, oh, you know, I don't know how to handle that, or I could never tackle that, I'm not going to get involved? Do you turn down lots of stuff?
I think that in general that's a feeling that most teenagers get. They get the feeling that they just can't, and their role right now is to be teenagers. And I always get that feeling, I do. But I think what you have to realize is you do have the power, and people will listen to you if you're passionate enough about something. I think that every time I see an opportunity to give my voice, give my opinion, I do. And I try to stay aside from that fear of perhaps being judged as someone who's way too young, because I know I'm capable, and having that faith in yourself is something that every teenager should have. And I encourage everybody who's watching, every adult, to really give their helping hand to any teenager who's willing to do something with their lives.
What other plans do you have in your future? I guess in terms of volunteering as well. What are your goals for the future?
Well, volunteerism is something that will always be part of my life, I'm certain. I continue to be involved in various initiatives. Now that I'm studying at Harvard, I have the opportunity to actually connect with international volunteer networks. I work as the first Canadian elected representative to the National Youth Council of America, which is a youth council that started in the U.S. but is now branching out to a lot of different countries, which tries to create partnerships between charity organizations. I think you'll find that just like in the business atmosphere, in the charitable atmosphere too, there's a lot of competition. And trying to break that competition and really unite people is something that's a great goal for me.
I can't help but notice you're wearing a shirt from Harvard, and I mentioned at the beginning you're 17. You're in your second year at Harvard. How can a 17-year-old be in their second year at Harvard?
Well, in high school, I took my grade 9 year and my grade 10 year in one because I was doing very well academically. But one thing I do always want to note is that I'm at Harvard to excel in everything that I do, but I'm very loyal to Canada, and I hope definitely to continue my career here.
Well, I don't know if I've accomplished very much in my life, given everything that you've been able to do, but you've definitely inspired me to do more, so I appreciate your time today. And good luck at Harvard, and good luck with all your future plans.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, that's it for this edition of At Issue for Teens. You can go to our website, ichannel.ca, to watch this entire episode online. Just click on Video Demand and At Issue for Teens. You can also email your feedback to comments@ichannel.ca. I'm Kevin O'Keefe. Thanks for watching.